The clock had stopped. Lee Jun-hyuk lifted it from his father's bedroom wall and went still. The hands pointed to 2:17. If the battery had simply run out, that would have meant nothing. But he could not move. 2:17. His brother Lee Jun-seo had been taken from this house at 2:17 in the morning. Jun-hyuk had been 12 years old. He had never forgotten that time. It was late March. Winter was attempting to return after appearing to leave. The sun came out briefly during the day, but the temperature dropped the moment it went down. Wind moved through the alley outside and pushed cold air through the window gap. The electricity was out. Power cuts were frequent in this village, even during daylight. They always had been. He had done homework by candlelight as a child, his father reading nearby, his brother across from him with a pencil. Those evenings had once existed. Tonight he had 2 candles burning while he sorted through his father's things. There was not much. A few worn garments, 1 old coat, some letters in a drawer, a clock on the wall. His father had not been a man who accumulated things. His father had died 4 days ago. A neighbor called him at work. He arrived to find his father cold. The physician came and said it was the heart. Jun-hyuk had known his father's heart was weak, but knowing had not prepared him for it. The funeral lasted 3 days. Neighbors came. Food was prepared. When it ended and the last visitor left, the house fell quiet. Jun-hyuk was alone in it now. His mother had died years ago. His brother had disappeared. His father was gone. He was the only one remaining in a house that had once held 4 people. He had started sorting through the room the previous day, keeping his hands moving to keep the thoughts from becoming too loud. He took out the old clothing and folded it. He opened the drawer and found the letters. They were from his mother, kept by his father all these years. He opened one and then folded it again. He could not read them yet. At the bottom of the drawer there appeared to be nothing. Then he turned to the clock on the wall. 2:17. He held the clock in the middle of the room. The frame was old wood, faded and marked with small scratches from years of ordinary time. He turned it over and opened the battery compartment. He replaced the old battery with a fresh one. The second hand started moving, but the time did not change. 2:17. The hands began advancing from that position. He set the clock on the floor and sat down. He remembered the night his brother was taken with a clarity that had never faded. It was deep winter. Snow was falling. Frost had formed on the windows. He was asleep when the sounds reached him. Footsteps, multiple people, a door, his brother's name spoken by an unfamiliar voice. He opened his eyes. Flashlight beams moved beneath his door. His father came into the room. His face was white, rigid. He said in a low flat voice, "Do not get up. Stay still." Jun-hyuk gripped the blanket in both hands. His brother's voice came from outside, asking where they were taking him. The voice was steady, not frightened. That steadiness had seemed the most wrong thing of all. The outer door closed. Footsteps moved across the snow and faded. Then only wind. He had looked at the clock then. 2:17. He was 12 years old. He had never seen a clock the same way since. After that night his father never said his brother's name. Jun-hyuk asked once, twice, and received silence. He stopped asking. His brother's room remained as it was, untouched. While dust settled and years passed, the memory moved inward. Not gone, just no longer on the surface. Sometimes when he saw a stranger's back in the alley, or when it snowed, his brother's laugh would surface. His brother had not talked much, but when he laughed it was audible. It came to him still, in the quietest moments. He could not know when his father had stopped the clock, or whether it had stopped there by chance. But something moved in his chest. His father had known that time. He had lived with this clock on the wall above him, looking at it every day without saying a word. He looked through the letters in the drawer once more, slowly. Between 2 of his mother's letters he found something else. A thick envelope, addressed to Lee Jun-seo. No return address. A date from 15 years ago. It had already been opened. 1 sheet of paper inside. 3 lines in an unfamiliar hand. Jun-seo is alive. He is in the north. He is healthy. I cannot write more than this. Jun-hyuk's hands shook. He read it again. His brother was alive. Someone had sent this to his father 15 years ago. His father had read it and said nothing. For 15 years, he had kept it beneath the letters in the drawer without a word. Why had he said nothing? Was he afraid Jun-hyuk would go looking? Was there a reason not to? His father had never been silent without reason. But there was no longer any way to ask him. He was still sitting with the envelope in his hand. When someone knocked at the door, he went rigid. The night was deep. There was no one with reason to come at this hour. He carried the candle to the door and opened it. An older man. He appeared to be in his 60s. Old coat, white at the temples, deep lines beneath his eyes. Both hands clasped in front of him. Snow on his shoulders. He had been standing outside for some time. The man said, "Is this the home of Lee Jun-seo's younger brother?" Jun-hyuk said, "I am his brother." The man said, "May I come in? I have something to tell you." They sat across from each other by candlelight. The man said, "I have been alongside Jun-seo for more than 20 years. He cannot come here himself. When I heard your father had passed, I came in his place. Jun-seo needs to know. And I believed you needed to know as well." Jun-hyuk asked, "Is my brother alive?" The man nodded. "He is alive. He is well." Jun-hyuk bowed his head. His shoulders moved. He had not planned to cry. The man waited without speaking. Wind pressed against the window. A cold March night. An old house with no father in it. But tonight in this room a voice had said his brother was alive. 28 years after that night. Would you have left to find your brother that same night, or tried first to understand why your father had kept this from you? Jun-hyuk raised his head and wiped his eyes. He said, "Can you give him a message? Tell him our father did not forget. Tell him the clock was stopped at 2:17. That he kept it that way until the end." The man was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I will tell him." He stood, adjusted his coat, and went to the door. Jun-hyuk watched from the doorway as the man walked down the gray alley and turned the corner and was gone. He returned to the room. He picked up the clock. Nearly an hour past 2:17 now. Still running, moving forward from the time it had held for so long. His brother was alive. His father had known. He had kept the clock stopped at that time and lived beneath it, day after day, holding what he could not say in the only way he knew. What is lost is not always gone. Sometimes it waits inside a stopped clock. For 28 years, waiting for the hands to move again. If this story stayed with you, the next one begins here too.